exploring something that sits at the very heart of your animal's well-being, their nervous system. What sparked this for me was welcoming a new kitten into our home, Matilda. She came to us from a shelter full of life and sensitivity and curiosity, and her arrival has stirred up a lot of chaos, especially for my two older boys. Navigating this transition got me reflecting, or has got me reflecting deeply on emotional safety, regulation, and how crucial the nervous system is in helping our animals feel safe, connected, and well. Hello and welcome to the Natural Animal Podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Hatton. I'm an animal naturopath and just big animal lover in general. Here on the show, we share thoughts and ideas about the nature of animals, their preferences, their behaviours, their ways of being, to engender a greater understanding, respect, compassion, and love for all animals, companion, farm, and wild. I hope you enjoy this week's episode. So welcome to this week's show. If you're lucky, you might get to see her for those of you watching the video version. There might be a bit of disruption as I need to go and navigate the felines. I'm feeling that I may need to do that now. So I ask for your patience, and I'll probably edit out those bits anyway if that happens. But let's get into it. Okay, so this is part of a two-part series. So in this week's episode, we're going to be looking at what is the nervous system and why it matters, how the nervous system develops, cognitive and emotional development, and why the nervous system matters in holistic animal health. And then in next fortnight's episode of the podcast, we'll dive into part 2. So, what is the nervous system? Well, it's the body's communication network. It's made up of the central nervous system, the CNS, and the autonomic nervous system, ANS. The ANS, autonomic nervous system, has two branches, sympathetic and parasympathetic, which you might know as fight or flight and rest and digest. When your animal feels safe, the parasympathetic system is dominant. Digestion, sleep, and healing happen here. When there's a perceived threat, even if it's not dangerous, the sympathetic system kicks in. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, the body gets ready to flee or fight. And the vagus nerve plays a key role in this balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems. It's part of the parasympathetic system, and it is vital for returning to calm after stress. And that's really important. When your animal is able to move smoothly and quite quickly into a state of calm after being stressed, that means they have what I like to call a healthy emotional resilience and recalibration. They can recalibrate quite healthily. Now, coming back to this thing called the vagus nerve, it is the longest cranial nerve in the body. It runs from the brain stem down through the neck, chest, and into the abdomen, connecting to the heart, the lungs, the stomach, and the intestines. This makes it a major player in the parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for rest, digestion, repair, and calm connection. When the vagus nerve is functioning well, this is what we call high vagal tone, an animal can more easily return to a state of calm after being startled or stressed. They recover quickly. They can eat, sleep, play, and engage. But when vagal tone is low due to trauma, chronic stress, poor diet, or lack of emotional safety, an animal may stay stuck in a state of tension or collapse. Vagal activity doesn't just regulate those internal organs of, the heart, the lungs, the stomach, and the intestines. It also influences how your animal expresses their emotions, how they bond with others, and their voice. In fact, research in humans and animals shows that the vagus nerve helps mediate the ability to connect safely with others, both physically and emotionally. In pets, this can look like a soft body posture, relaxed eyes, a willingness to engage, or the ability to rest deeply. In practical terms, the vagus nerve is like a bridge between the body and the emotional world. It helps your animal feel safe in their environment, in their body, and in relationship. And when that bridge is weakened, everything else, digestion, behavior, healing, can be affected. And I have a personal story that I would like to take a few moments to share with you on this. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we have a new feline in the house, little Matilda. She already has a variety of names. Little one, Miss M. Um, I can't even think of the other ones right now. Little rat bag, because can be a little rat bag. She's very young. She's only I think 12 weeks old tomorrow. She was born on the 3rd of March, so she's a Pisces for your astrology lovers. And in true Pisces form, she adores water. She listens to the water when it goes down the drain. When I have a shower, she waits for me to finish. She gets all excited, and then when I finish, she runs in and plays with the water. It is hilarious. I've never had a cat that's liked water like this little Miss Pisces girl does. But with her arrival, there has been quite a bit of chaos. I have upended our world. And when I was preparing for this show on the weekend, the worst hadn't really hit. So it was interesting because it allowed me to reflect back on what I'm sharing with you today. I think was it yesterday? Oh, what's the day today? It's Tuesday today. Yesterday was Monday, Sunday. Sunday, Elvie had a bit of an episode in that something happened to him. I think he was distracted when he was eating and some food got stuck in his mouth or something and he couldn't get it out and he got really agitated and pissed off. And I couldn't help him get it out. And so, he hardly ate that day. He spent most of the day outside on the deck. He didn't want a bar of Matilda. He just wanted to be alone. He wasn't talking. He wasn't vocalizing. And he's a talker. Like, we often have conversations. So it made me think about this whole vagus nerve thing and the bridge between the body and the emotional world and what can happen when that bridge is weakened. And it was like he was shutting down. It's like he was withdrawing. And lucky for me, I know a lot of different strategies for helping to recalibrate, to strengthen that bridge. And that's what I did. For him, obviously, he needed his own space, right? So I gave him that. I allowed him that space. I tried very hard to manage my own stress around what was going on. But mostly I did some energy healing with him. I did his usual healing protocol that I do. And his complete energy was out of whack. Every single chakra, energy center, imbalanced. Just his whole energetic state was out of balance. So, but at the end of that session, everything had been returned back to balance. But then I needed to allow time for those energies to integrate, for that bridge to be strengthened, right? So, I did another healing session for him overnight. And I say overnight because it was like I was in my dream state when I did it. Had a very disrupted sleep that night. I felt very, very guilty for bringing Matilda into our home. I contemplated, I was like, shit, do I need to return her? I can't return her. I can't be the one who has that imposes that trauma on her. But then I need to make sure that Elvie feels safe in his home, because it was his home first. And I literally had this conversation with Matilda yesterday or something. I was like, Elvie was here first. This is his home first. It's your home too, but you need to respect that it was his home first. And your presence has created quite a bit of a upheaval, and we need to respect the boy's boundaries and all of that. So I'm constantly conversing with all of the felines. And one thing that came through with the healings that I did was also just this message that dropped through around for LV, take as much time as you need. Um, Giving him that freedom and that space and that permission, not that he needs permission, but it was just expressing that. And that was what that came through, because I felt that's what he needed. He wants to please me. Just saw a little kitten tail there. He wants to please me. And so I felt that it was very important for him that to let him know that he is pleasing me. And that it's so important for him, for me to know that he's taking the time that he needs. And so, long story short, and I spoke about this in the newsletter, or the newsletter that will be going out today. I've already written part of it, so it feels like I'm writing that and recording this like at the same time. Not at the same time, but I literally went from doing some voice notes for what I wanted to include in my newsletter this week to recording this. So I'm kind of like working in these parallel timelines at the moment. And then I get confused because I was like, where am I? Where are we? And then the little cats come along and I get distracted. And this is what my life has been like all week. It's been very distracting. It's been very chaotic. The schedules have gone to rubbish, gone to hell, right? So back to the vagus nerve and LV. So, I know a lot about how to help animals, how to give animals that space and give them what they need. And I intuit what they need as well. And so part of my role is to help you have that understanding about your animals. Today is about helping you understand how your animal's nervous system works, how it can be dysregulated, how we can regulate it, all those things. Like in part 2, we'll be talking about all the things that you can do to help recalibrate, regulate. So kind of like some of the things that I did with Elva yesterday. Like I thought I can't even remember if I said this, because again, I don't know if I'm just remembering from what I did, my like brain dump from the newsletter later, or if this is something that I've already said in this episode. But I thought it got to the point where I thought, I'm going to have to take Elby to the vet. And I really didn't want to take him to the vet. No, I haven't said this. I didn't really want to take him to the vet because I was like, he's already had so much stress this past week with the introduction of Matilda. The vet is just going to stress him out to the max. And I don't know if he'll be able to handle that. And so I just had all of this back and forth and overwhelm and confusion. And in the moment in time, I was like, do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Oh my God. And then I cried and I felt guilty and I felt bad. And I slept and then I didn't sleep. And then I healed him as I was sleeping or in and out of sleep. And anyway, long story short, he's back to normal. He's so much more back to normal, not like back to normal pre-Matilda, but he's almost back to normal pre-Matilda. Obviously, there's never going to be that situation again. At least probably not for a year, until Matilda is a fully grown adult. She's only 11, 12 weeks. So she's only just getting to the 3-month mark. So we've got at least another 3 to 6 months of crazy kitten behavior, antics, late night zoomies. So that's fun. I want to go to bed and she's just zipping all over the house. And the boys are like, what the hell is that? So he's not in pre-Matilda emotional resilient state, but he's better than he has been since Matilda has arrived. They even did a nose-to-nose connection today, which they have not done without hissing. So that was amazing progress. He's out in the deck now, but that's part of his normal behavior. And Matilda's running around doing who knows what. She's actually quite quiet, so hopefully she's not up to mischief. She's exploring the house, and Max is sleeping in one of his usual spots on the top of the couch. So there's some semblance of normalcy that has returned, but not without an immense amount of stress and disruption and impacts on the nervous system. Okay, so if you want to know a bit more about everything that went on with Elvie, because it might be relevant to what's going on in your life at the moment, send me a DM or send me an email if you're not on my email list, and I will send you that email that I haven't even written yet, but by the time this goes to air, that will be written. So if you want to get that, because I'm not going to go into all of that on this, that's just in the newsletter. So let's get back to my script that I've got written here to keep me focused. So we've spoken about in the first part, what is the nervous system, right? And the vagus nerve, how that acts as a bridge, and how when that is weakened, that bridge between the body and the emotional world, when that bridge is weakened, everything else can be affected. Digestion, and that's the other thing as well. Elvie wasn't eating, and he wasn't, so I went and got him a little supplement because I didn't have everything to hand here. I got a lot of herbs and stuff, but there were certain things that I wanted to give him that I didn't have. And I was like, so it wasn't just about the energetic support, about giving him space. It was also making sure that if there was a simplification of his diet yesterday, and there was the addition of this gut supplement for him, because he feels everything so much in his physical body, but also in his emotional and energetic body. So there's a lot of different moving parts, but it all comes back to the nervous system. Now, your animal's ability to feel safe, calm, and connected isn't something that they're simply born with. It is shaped by experience. And the nervous system is especially sensitive during the early weeks and months of life. And now, here is little Matilda. Yeah, did you hear the little meow for those listening who can't see? As we're speaking about the development of the nervous system, so especially sensitive during the early weeks and months of life. So that for Matilda, this is prime nervous system development time. And so that I think she's actually hungry. So I'm gonna have to feed her. Kittens need a lot of food, right? Not a lot of food, frequent feeding. So I might just pause this for a moment. Okay, so go with a little snack, keep her happy. She's right here eating it. So, especially sensitive time for Matilda right now as her nervous system is developing. So, of course, I need to make sure that the boys' nervous systems are supported, but I'm also very, very conscious of helping to build or create a cat who has really healthy nervous system resilience, right? So, in both dogs and cats, there are, as well as this time when they're, and we'll go into this in a bit more detail. So, there are these critical periods of development, which are windows of time when the brain and nervous system are rapidly forming neural pathways in response to their environment. So let's have a look at, I've got puppies written here first, but because I'm dealing with a kitten, I'm going to start with kittens. So no, I'm not. I'm going to start with puppies just because of the way it's written. So we have the neonatal period. So this is 0 to 2 weeks. This is when basic sensory and motor systems are beginning to come online. The puppy is largely dependent on the mother and the littermates for warmth, nourishment, and safety. Then there's what's called the transitional period, 2 to 4 weeks of age. The senses open up, the eyes and the ears begin functioning, and the puppy starts to interact more actively with the world. Then comes the socialization period. This is the period that Matilda is in, roughly 3 to 14 weeks. This is the most pressure on me. This is the most influential phase. Positive experiences during this time, gentle touch, safe handling, exposure to novel stimuli. These things help to shape a nervous system that can adapt and self regulate. But if a puppy is or a kitten is isolated, exposed to chronic stress, or denied choice or comfort, their nervous system may become wired for overreaction, shutdown, or hypervigilance. A similar timeline applies for kittens, although they do go through a more sensitive socialization period around 2 to 9 weeks. So, Matilda, who's I think 12 weeks today, she's finished that sensitive socialization period, right? Um, Gentle, positive handling during this time can lead to confident, connected adult cats. Lack of human contact lack of human contact, maternal instability, or overstimulation can leave lasting emotional imprints. Now, in both species, early weaning, especially before 8 weeks, can impair emotional development and stress resilience. Now, Matilda, she was actually born in foster home. Her mother gave birth in foster home, which is great because it means that she really didn't have a huge amount of trauma or the amount of trauma that most rescue cats have because, she was born in a stable environment. Now, she left that environment, so she was taken from her mother. She stayed with her siblings at 10 weeks, but it was that at least she had that, really important 8-week period. She actually had 10 weeks for weaning. And what I can find, like with my beautiful angel cat Lily, she she must have been weaned too early because she used to suckle on my neck. Matilda is not showing any of those presentations at all. So I think she had a really good start to her life. Now, in this early weaning period, especially before 8 weeks, if they are early weaned, they're what am I trying to say here? Okay, so I'm just going to say this sentence again because I have confused myself with my interjection. So, in both species, early weaning, especially before 8 weeks, can impair emotional development and stress resilience. Why? Because suckling, warmth, and maternal grooming all stimulate vagal tone and soothe the infant's nervous system. That should all make sense. It all makes sense to me. I hope it all makes sense to you. So much of an animal's ability to regulate emotions later in life is influenced by these earliest experiences when their nervous system is still wiring itself to interpret the world as safe or unsafe. And this wiring isn't just emotional, it's physical too. Chronic stress early in life can alter the development of the amygdala. The amygdala in the brain processes fear. It can alter the development of the hippocampus in the brain, which relates to memory. It can also alter the development of the prefrontal cortex in the brain, which is responsible for decision making and impulse control. These are the same structures that we see affected in human trauma survivors. Now, going just back to these early experiences of, the wiring of the nervous system and the ability to interpret the world as safe or unsafe, Matilda is experiencing that. She's been here for a week and 2 days, and I can tell you there are two things that freak her out. The vacuum cleaner. She runs and hides under the altar, a little table that I've got in my work/spirit creative space. The other thing is the Vitamix. She's okay with the NutriBullet blender, which is usually what I use to make my smoothies, but I use the Vitamix for a lot of stuff. And so Vitamix is like industrial power. So that and the vacuum cleaner, which just is a handheld Dyson, but they are loud. So she feels unsafe with those loud noises, but she's found a safe space. And I'm always conscious when I'm about to use those to put her in that safe space. This morning I had to use the Vitamix because I was make my own hazelnut milk. It's very easy. DM me or email if you want the recipe. Or comment below if you're watching, viewing, experiencing this on a platform that allows you to comment. Pretty sure Spotify does and YouTube. Apple doesn't. Apple, you need to fix that so that we can have more engagement, right? So this morning when I got to the Vitamix, I was like, oh, I got to use this. Where is she? She was actually in the bedroom. One of the things that she does, which actually is very in common with Elvie, she's got a lot in common with Elvie, surprisingly, but not surprisingly, she loves to eat the ferns. There's a maidenhair fern, a beautiful maidenhair fern in my bedroom, and she goes and she plays with that. So she was playing with that. So I was like, okay, Matilda, loud noise, I'm going to shut you in here. So making sure that I knew that this was something that made her feel unsafe. So making sure that she was in a safe space so she didn't get that, oh my God, I'm not safe. That loud, scary thing is happening. Okay, so Another thing that is relevant to the development of nervous system is breed tendencies, genetic sensitivity, and the environment. All these things play a role. While early life experience is foundational, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. Genetics and breed specific traits also play a significant role in how an animal's nervous system is wired and how it responds to the world. Let's have a look at genetics. Some animals are simply born with a more sensitive nervous system. Just like humans, dogs and cats can inherit traits that influence how they respond to stress, novelty, or social interaction. You might notice this in a litter of puppies or kittens. One might be bold and exploratory, like my Matilda, while another trembles or hides from the same experience. Now, research shows that inherited temperament can affect baseline stress hormone levels like cortisol, vagal tone, how easily they return to calm, and an increased susceptibility to anxiety related behaviors. This doesn't mean that they're doomed to be reactive. It just means that they may need a different kind of support to help their nervous system regulate well. Let's have a look at some breed tendencies in dogs. So, breed characteristics will often reflect what the animal was historically bred to do, and that includes emotional wiring. Your working breeds, like your border collies, your kelpies, and your shepherds, often have highly alert nervous systems. They're incredibly responsive, intelligent, and need both mental and physical stimulation to feel settled. And so, if you've got a working breed dog, like I see this quite a lot, working breed dogs, they're not stimulated sufficiently. And then that results in behavioral issues because their breed characteristics are not being catered for, right? Don't get a working breed if you don't have the time to help them to express their energetic needs, right? Toy breeds may be more sensitive to handling and environmental stress. Their smaller size also means the world feels more intense. Like sometimes we call this, smaller dog syndrome, right? They can be very, very yappy, 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 yappy. This is probably because they feel that they have to defend themselves more because they're small, right? Guardian breeds. These might be slower to warm up, deeply loyal, but more reactive to perceived threats. And finally, your retrievers and your more companion breed type dogs may be more naturally attuned to human emotion and social cues. So, watch your emotions even more so if you have a retriever or a companion breed of dog. So, a dog's breed doesn't just affect how they look, it influences how their nervous system responds to life. So, knowing your dog's breed characteristics and your breed characteristics, what they're historically bred to do, is really important in making sure that they're getting the enrichment that they need to have a healthy nervous system response. Now, in cats, things are a bit more subtle, but breed can also still play a role. For example, your Oriental breeds like Siamese tend to be more vocal. I mean, tabby cats are very vocal too. Emotionally expressive and sensitive to change. Your ragdolls and your Burmans are often described as laid back and affectionate, but that doesn't mean they're immune to stress, just that they show it differently. And I can speak to this from personal experience with my beautiful angel cat Lily, who was a Burman. And she was so placid and so calm, but she would still get stressed, but it was a very different way than the tabby boys presented with stress. She was more resilient, um, but still needed to obviously have her nervous system supported, like everybody, human and animal, does, right? Cats with less human interaction in their lineage, like those cats that are born on the streets, what you might call feral. I don't actually like the word feral. I actually hate the word feral. It implies that there's something wrong. I would prefer to say wild born cats, right? They are born in the wild. They may have stronger reactivity and withdrawal behaviors due to inherited nervous system programming. Now, this is interesting because Elvie was a street cat. And so when I look at how Elvie and Max have responded to Matilda, they were both stressed out at the beginning, but Max has accepted her more readily than Elvie. And when you look at both of them, you'd always think, oh, Max is the more nervous. But in this situation, Elvia's, so that stronger reactivity, that stronger withdrawal, because he was born, as far as I'm aware, I found him on the street, or he found me on the street, up a tree, actually, in the park behind my house in Paddington, Sydney, when I lived there. And no one, I put up signs around the neighborhood, and no one claimed him, and so I just assumed he was born on the streets, right? I mean, he may have been an abandoned litter, I don't know, but he still, lived that beginning phase of his life on the streets, right? So, this stronger reactivity withdrawal behaviors can happen with these kinds of cats. Now, what about the environment? Even with the best genetics, the environment has such a great role in shaping the nervous system. An animal raised in a chaotic, noisy, or emotionally unpredictable or unstable environment, especially during developmental stages, may internalize a sense of unsafety. Whereas an animal raised in a calm, responsive, enriched environment will often develop more resilient emotional wiring. So, your environment, your house, your home, is it chaotic? Is it noisy? Is it emotionally unpredictable? Or is it calm, responsive, and enriching for your animal? If, I imagine if you've got a young family, it is probably quite chaotic and noisy and unpredictable. So then it's about, you can't change that. You can't get rid of your kids like people get rid of their animals, right? So, I mean, I guess people do get rid of their kids. I certainly don't want you to do that. But then it's about, well, what things can I bring into the home to create more calm, to create an environment where my animal feels safe? That is also going to be an environment that your kids feel safe. Not that I'm an expert on kids. Animals, yes. Kids, no. But I'm pretty confident, like I have been around babies and small children in my life. And, if you're calm, if the environment's calm, that's going to be a more likely situation that they all be calm. It's like when I had to put Matilda to bed. She doesn't want to go to bed. She's fighting sleep. The other night, she was falling asleep sitting up. I'm like, "Darling, just go to sleep. We can do it all again tomorrow." It was cute, very cute. So what is the environment? The environment is you, your tone, your energy, predictability and choice, access to sensory enrichment, freedom to rest, retreat, and express oneself without punishment. Yeah. So it's not just nature or nurture, it's both. And understanding that this helps us move away from blame and into curiosity and compassion. Like, one of the things that I hate, and I witnessed this growing up, is, and a lot of people do it, when their dog pees inside and the people rub their dog's nose in the pee like it's a punishment. The dog's not trained. Like, it's not his fault. He needs to pee. He wasn't allowed outside. Like, a lot of time it can happen overnight and no one's letting him outside to pee, or they haven't taken him for a walk before bed so that he can pee, right? So it's about having that compassion towards your animals, especially when they're babies, they're learning, right? So let's have a look now at cognitive and emotional development. Just like humans, dogs and cats don't arrive in the world with fully developed brains or emotional maturity. Their cognitive and emotional capacities develop over time, shaped by genetics, early experiences, and the environment they grow up in, which we've covered. So, looking at the dogs, there are studies that show that adult dogs have the cognitive abilities of a 2 to 2.5 year old child. They can understand up to 200 plus human words, some even more, like this famous border collie named Chaser. They can interpret human gestures and gaze. They learn by inference. For example, if it's not this toy, it must be that one. And they form emotional associations and social attachments. Dogs also show signs of episodic like memory, meaning they can remember specific events and emotional contexts, even if they don't recall them the way that humans do. Now, these skills develop early on. Social play, training with positive reinforcement, and exposure to novelty will help to build strong neural connections in the brain, especially in areas related to decision making, emotional regulation, and social interaction. So, if you have, whether you've got a young dog or an adult dog, these things are important in terms of the social play, training with positive reinforcement, exposure to novelty, expressing natural behaviors. Now, with cats, cats are often seen as mysterious or aloof, and they are because they're not dogs. But cognitive studies show they are just as fascinating, if not more, than dogs. And I will confess, I do have a feline bias, and I'm not going to apologize for it. That's just the way I'm built. I'm like a human cat. So, cats can recognize human voices, facial expressions, and even match emotional tones to visual cues. I've been saying Matilda's name a lot. And I think it was this morning I was saying, Matilda, Matilda, and she came running towards me. Does that mean she's learned her name? Maybe she's starting to recognize that tone. And I think, yes, she is. She's learning very fast. Cats also form long term memories and they can learn through observation and imitation, right? And that's such I was going to say curious one, interesting one, the imitation. It's why, like, again, and I know I'm using Matilda so many times as examples, but it's just like true to me at the moment. It's just so present in my life at the moment. She is so present in my life at the moment. Um, I look at the things that she does, and she came to me, fully toilet trained and, cleans herself very well. And I look at all the things and it's like, your mum taught you really, really well. And that's how they learn. They're observing their mum grooming themselves. They're observing their mum, going to toilet. And so then they imitate that behavior. Now, if you've got a dog who pees inside, does that mean you need to take your dog outside and pee outside to show them where to pee? No, although it may be a very effective strategy. If you've got a cat who's not toilet trained, does that mean you need to go to toilet in the litter tray? No, but again, that could also be an effective strategy. It is much better when they are brought up by their mother or a mother substitute so that they can learn. And so, they can get that in a foster. They can get that also by, being rewarded when they do, you scratch around in the litter tray and you put them in there and they do it, go to toilet and you give them a reward, that positive reinforcement. The other thing I want to talk about feline cognitive development is their problem solving skills can rival those of dogs, but they tend to express their intelligence differently, often through independence, selectivity, and subtle communication. So there's that like mystery, right? They are subtle in how they communicate. You must pay attention to the subtle cues that your felines give you. Cats' emotional development also hinges on early experiences. Secure, gentle contact in kittenhood helps them build trust, confidence, and adaptability. Yes. A cat that is rushed through weaning, deprived of maternal care, or exposed to chronic stress early on may grow into an adult with nervous system vulnerabilities, even if they seem independent. And I see this with my boys. Yes, they have nervous system vulnerabilities because of how their life began. And obviously, I've done a lot of work to build a healthy, safe environment for them, but there's still some semblance of programming there from that, some PTSD, I guess you could say. Whereas my plan is that because of Matilda's upbringing before she came to me, like she was only in the shelter for like 2 days. Before that, she was in one consistent foster home, and now she's here. So, as I said earlier, my plan is to create a very healthy, very resilient cat at all levels of her being, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all the things. Speaking of emotionally and maturity, um, Maturity in both dogs and cats, when it comes to cognition, includes the ability to feel and express emotion, to tolerate stress without becoming overwhelmed, to read social cues, and respond to familiar routines or safety signals. But here's the important part: emotional maturity doesn't mean emotional perfection. We cannot ever expect for our animals to be perfect. We can't expect that we are perfect because we are not and they are not. Although you could say their imperfections are their perfection. How's that, right? It's their imperfections that make them perfect. But not in that human, logical, linear, that's not perfect. Like, you should behave this way because this is the appropriate way. No, 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 no. Throw that shit out the window, right? Emotional maturity does not mean emotional perfection. Just like humans, animals have their own thresholds. One animal may bounce back quickly from stress, another may need more time, more support, and more space. Like Elvie, like the example I gave you of the other day when he was getting to that point. He had low vagal tone. That bridge between the physical and the emotional had started to collapse. And then luckily, I was able to step in, notice, observe that, and take considered, compassionate, caring, healing action to help create an environment where that bridge could be rebuilt. And now he's beautiful. So he needs more time, more support, and more space than Max does with this introductory Hello Matilda world, right? In practice, emotional maturity looks like self-soothing, like they soothe themselves, chewing, retreating to a safe space, resting. Very, very, very healthy signs of emotional maturity. Making sure that they have that safe space away from all the chaos that they can go to, that they can access. Like sometimes I have to shut the boys in the bedroom because Matilda's acting like a crazy, well, like a kitten, like a 12-year-old kitten. And the boys, they're 12 and 16, they're just like, whoa, enough. So they're in the bedroom. She wants to run in there. I'm like, no, 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 no. The boys need to be alone. Give them their space. Shut the bedroom door. They're safe in there. She can be out in the rest of the house exploring, right? When I go out of the house, doesn't happen very often, Matilda's in the bedroom, and then the boys have free reign of the house without having to worry about Psycho Kitten coming around, right? And I say psycho with love and adoration because she's just a kitten. She's just being a kitten. Kitten perfection. Another sign of emotional maturity, or what emotional maturity can look like, is emotional communication, soft vocalizations, calming signals, affection, and flexibility, the ability to adapt to new people, new animals, new environments, or new routines. These aren't trained behaviors. They're the result of a well-regulated nervous system, a supportive environment, and time to mature and time to adapt, right? Using the LV example again, giving your animal the time to adapt to the new routines. Finally, I want to talk about, before we wrap up this part of this two-part series, why the nervous system matters in holistic animal health. When we think about health, whether physical, emotional, or behavioral, it is easy to focus on the obvious, the symptoms, the surface behaviors, or the specific diagnosis that you might have. But underneath all of that, there is a system that influences everything, and that is the nervous system. A regulated nervous system will allow your animal's body to digest food properly, rest and sleep deeply, heal from injury or illness, bond and communicate socially, think clearly and respond appropriately, or healthily is a better word, to stress. But a dysregulated nervous system, one that's stuck in chronic fight, flight, freeze, or shutdown, disrupts all of those functions. And that's what we saw with Elvie the day before yesterday, right? That complete disruption. And the signs of this dysregulation often show up in the very issues that pet parents are trying to treat. Common signs that may have roots in nervous system dysregulation are digestion problems, vomiting, diarrhea, IBD, picky eating, gas. When an animal is in a stress state, digestion is one of the first systems to downregulate. Hence why LV is on a gut support supplement, because I've noted, because he had started that day before yesterday, he'd really lost his appetite, right? Immune dysfunction, chronic infections, allergies, inflammation. The nervous and the immune systems are deeply interconnected. Chronic stress suppresses immunity and alters inflammatory responses. So, if your animal has an inflammatory condition, which is basically everything, everything starts with emotional disruption or energy imbalance, inflammation in the body, blah, blah, blah. So if you're, I'll use a really clear, specific example. If your animal has skin issues and you've tried all the things, um, have you looked at the stress, right? How's your animal's nervous system health? That could be the missing piece in the puzzle, right? Um, Another common sign that may have roots in nervous system dysregulation is behavioral issues, reactivity, aggression, fearfulness, separation anxiety, shutdown. These are not bad behaviors. They're stress responses from a body that doesn't feel safe. Sleep disturbances or hypervigilance, so difficulty resting, always on alert, pacing at night, unable to settle even when the home is quiet. This is why nervous system awareness is foundational to holistic care. It gives us context, it gives us compassion, and it helps us stop chasing symptoms and start addressing the terrain. Instead of asking, how do I stop this behavior? We begin to ask, what's going on underneath this response? Why is my animal behaving this way? And how can I help them to feel safe? In my practice, it is often the animals with chronic digestive issues, repeat infections, or lingering behavioral struggles that finally begin to shift, not because we found a perfect supplement, but because we help them feel safe again. We supported the system that underpins everything else, right? It's still really important to look at what is their diet, optimize their diet, give them those supportive supplements. But like what I say around the energy piece of true holistic healing, you're not going to get true healing if we ignore the nervous system. And energy speaks to that anyway, like energy, emotions, nervous system, right? It's often the thing that is not thought about or it's disregarded because it's, airy fairy, blah, 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 right? We helping our animals feel safe is an important aspect of their health and healing. And that's the essence of holistic health, not just treating parts in isolation, but recognizing how beautifully interconnected it all is. Now, that's it for today's episode. In next week's, not next week's, in next, because now I do fortnightly episodes. In the next episode, part 2 of this series, we're going to be exploring what happens when the nervous system becomes dysregulated. We've touched on it here, but we're going to go deeper, much deeper into that. We're going to look at what stress actually looks like for cats and dogs and how we can support them naturally, emotionally, energetically, and physiologically. And until then, I have some homework for you. I invite you to simply observe your animal, not to fix or analyze, just notice. When do they seem most relaxed? What does their body look like when they're truly at ease? And on the flip side, what situations tend to tense them up, even subtly? And how does this show up in their body? Pay attention to their breathing, their posture, their eyes, their pace, their vocalization. These moments offer us insight into how our animals' nervous systems are responding to the world and how we might gently begin to support them from the inside out and the outside in. There is no pressure here. There is no perfect outcome. It's all just about quiet observation at this point. I look forward to connecting with you again in the next episode. And if you'd like to continue the conversation before then, join me over on my new Substack with the animals or my Instagram, ruth.animalnaturopath. I'd love to hear what this episode brought up for you, what you're noticing in your own animals, or how this understanding of the nervous system is shifting the way you see your animals' behavior and health. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next episode. If you found this episode today helpful, I would love it if you could share it with a fellow animal lover or leave a review. It helps others find this work and it helps animals live better lives. Until next time, take care of yourself and your beautiful, beautiful animals, and big, big love.